with Druid, which I never fault anybody for leading off a series with Druid, honestly.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Druid's just one of those, again, strong and consistent decks, especially with this kind of lineup from Forsen.
Oh,
I think he's very fine with how this is going to end up working.
interesting. So it seems like Reynad's running a fast Druid, but he still has Watchers in it, and it makes sense given Watchers and their potency. I wonder if he's playing any interesting tech cards too that can activate Watchers. You know, people were thinking Watchers were going to become more popular when Wailing Soul came out because it silences your own minions. But I'm not sure. Maybe Reynad just has a traditional mid-range Druid that doesn't necessarily play token, but you still have the double combo to end the game.
Yeah, I kind of like it. Wait a minute. Look at this. Look at this mage start. This is like a zoo deck.
That's a beautiful curve. 1, 2, 3, 4. You get draws. I mean, the only thing better is he draws a secret with the Kirin Tor Mage, so that way he can immediately pop it. And actually, with I was actually kind of hearing a little bit people talk about it, but Mirror Entity is actually becoming a more and more strong card, just because of how it functions with everything else, like the Mad Scientist and Kirin Tor Mage, because of how much value you can get in tempo, and the fall of really aggressive decks like Face Hunter, Aggro Paladin, etc. It's interesting.
Yeah, something that I think is really weird about Mirror Entity is when a secret's fetched from something like Mad Scientist, your opponent is in a position where they don't want to play a strong minion into a Mirror Entity. So a lot of times what ends up happening is it forces them to play a weaker minion in their hand. So it's the presence of Mirror Entity, not even necessarily in your deck, but just as a card in general, it does a really strange job in terms of dictating your opponent's tempo at times.
Sure, yeah. You just kind of disrupt the flow. It's the kind of the snake trap of yesterday, where it's like you expect freezing and explosive trap. You're just kind of thrown out for a loop when it's one of those secrets that you're not really prepared for. Forsen, by the way, has some of these mid-range creatures like Lotheb and Sylvanas popping into his hand, so it's not one of these really fast mages that try to end the game with spells after they do early game damage in Sorcerer's Apprentices. And it makes sense. The mid-range mage, they just struggle against the mid-range hunter, but if you take it out of the mix, it's actually pretty decent from what I've heard.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I think you're pretty much spot on with that. Something that's really strange to me is that Gnomish Adventures in this deck. It seems like it's got some pretty strong curve. And to have something like Gnomish Inventor, I don't know, it just feels a little silly to me.
I wonder if it's because he scaled back Azure Drake for maybe some 5 drops.
I imagine it has to be the case.
Some card draw. By the way, this Lotheb not really doing too much work. There's only a combo, and Reynad couldn't play it anyways. But it was a really powerful 5-attack minion, which is very relevant because Druid has so many of these 5-health creatures that it can deal with. So Reynad's going to try to get ahead of it, attack into Lotheb, take the 5 damage, and make it difficult for Lotheb to trade in.
It's a really heads-up attack there, honestly. He doesn't want to have to invest that 2 mana next turn. He's not going to be able to if he wants to play something like... If he just wants to get Harrison on the board, or if he wants to use Force Nature to help clean up. So this is, again, it's sort of like a preemptive strike. It costs a lot, but this is sometimes the price you have to pay in order to make sure you have time to do everything you need to do.
Mad Scientist, a card that people said maybe doesn't work that well in Mage, but you'd be surprised. The 3 mana that you can push out through it gives you insane tempo. And it really does depend on what spells Forsen's playing. We saw a counter spell. I wonder if he's playing like Mirror Entity. Most likely Duplicate will go into the mix too, because Duplicate gives you a lot of longevity into the mid game or to the late game, because mid-range mage sometimes struggles late game when they just don't have anything else, and you just run out of gas. So Duplicate does give it to you if you're able to hit it on the right cards.
Yep. What do you think of using Kirin Tor plus the hero power and Mad Scientist there, and using your Lotheb to take out the 2/3? So you have a Mad Scientist and a 5/3 Lotheb instead of this board position. And your opponent doesn't have their Sun Fury Protector?
Well, then you don't get to... Do you still push for damage in the Kirin Tor in your scenario? Because
No,
right now
no.
he's putting him at 11 health, and he's threatening
Right.
like a fireball finish. So
That's
this is still really difficult.
Yeah, that's the difference here. This is like is as much of like a not of a bluff that this is intended to be. This looks really bad if you're in Reynad's position, because now you are worried about things like fireball. That's a really good point you bring up. He's looking at it and he sees 4 cards in his opponent's hand, and obviously he doesn't know what the exact cards are. We do. We know there's no fireball, but if you're in Reynad's position, you have to be mindful of Fireball in this position.
But what do you even do about it? You can't even heal. You can't
That's a good
even clear the
question.
board.
That's a very good question.
Gosh, I mean, either way, you feel like you're taking the damage, so you might
Right.
just play minion press. He's got too many situational cards. Harrison for the weapon classes, Black Knight for the taunts, and that's neither in this scenario. Reynad just has quality minions. Water Elemental, a great card just for stats and its effect. Kirin Tormage for the tempo that can gain you, sneaking in an extra secret. Forsen doesn't even need to use secrets. It's a secrets mage, but he hasn't seen one all game.
Right.
All right, well, Reynad's going to go for the clear. He is running out of time. The rope can be a little bit delayed based off of how that's interacting, but seems like Reynad... Oh, did he miss an attack with the Sun Fury Protector? Oh, no, Reynad went out of time again. And you know what? It may not matter this game, but that can definitely mess with his head for sure. I almost feel like that's going to do that for him.
That's stemming from the mindset of he feels so behind that there's nothing he can do about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's making a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the impact of it is still kind of negligible just because...
Oh, it's very negligible. This
Yeah,
game, it doesn't
Forsen-
matter at all.
Yeah, but still, it's one of those things where you just don't want to miss that opportunity because then you let your opponent know that maybe you're
Right.
kind of tilting here.
It's a compounding issue too, like because especially when you recognize that you made that mistake in hindsight, now you're very mindful of that. It's one more thing to add up to the pressure that's coming in this match. Is you already don't want to be making mistakes coming into it, and you certainly don't want to be making them, and then realizing it in a match where you feel like you're already behind or losing or whatever have you. So it's something it's not fun to make that sort of mistake, but it certainly is close to inconsequential this game.
All right, well, Reynad's going to stay in it and see how much of this mage deck he can take a good look at before this game's end. He's still, again, not out of it yet. Forsen doesn't have those spells to burn through, but he's got ways to continue to improve the board position. And when you see things like Sylvanas, then you know to play around it in the future turns. As soon as it turns more into a control battle, what Reynad has afterwards.
Right. Pretty good position though. Karen's really going to do a lot of work
I have no time for
in
games.
this position.
Okay, chooses to load up again.
Yeah, using the Mad Scientist hero over using hero power is 100% correct. You just need extra stuff on the board. You're just trying to get as much down as possible.
Reynad runs Spellbreaker, so that's a card to synergize immediately. It's the 4 mana cost silence that allows you to activate your Watchers.
Yeah, not sure he has a realistic way to pick this game up.
I'm thinking
12,
but
14, he's facing down 14 power on the board plus a hero power.
Yeah, he's gonna have to use his own face to even contribute to the clear. And it's just a little bit too tight anyways. Reynad concedes game 1 and Forsen jumps out to a 1-0 lead. And with the mage, nonetheless, you just ban Hunter and mage just becomes much stronger, but well, he's gonna go with Miracle Rogue instead. And he's off to a decent start because he has SI7 agent and the coin, which is a great way to deal with any kind of early flood of minions against Miracle. Contemplating whether or not he keeps Sap, but I feel like getting out these early things like Deadly Poison. Oh, even pushing away SI7 agent.
Wow.
Oh my
That's
goodness.
really strange to me.
Huh. Okay.
I also just think that keeping whoa and what a hand he gets in return.
Not bad.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was actually going to say I'm a little surprised he chose to queue up Rogue against a deck like this because if Forsen gets something like a Water Elemental to stick, which is going to happen about 100% of the time he plays Water Elemental, Reynad finds himself in a little bit of a precarious situation. There's a lot of strong spot removal spells. He can get some strong tempo from like Kirin Tormage. Mirror Entity is going to put a lot of pressure on your deck in terms of like a performance standpoint. I think this is a questionable deck choice, honestly, but we may see it pay off in spades. At the end of the day, you are Miracle Rogue, so
right.
Miracle
still can do anything.
Right.
Precisely. All right. By the way, Reynad does have these interesting choice cards like No Mission Venture, which has just been around since even before Naxxramas. Gives it a good 4-drop for this reason, so that way you have something good to do on turn 4, and you don't feel like you just weapon up and pass. Ooh. And, he does have that Gadget Stand Conceal, so his turns are mapped out. Forsen picks up Water Elemental off the top, though, and that's a great card to answer immediately this Farseer and threaten the Rogue.
Second Auctioneer, not an exciting pickup. I'm a little surprised he didn't choose to poison there. I guess he's going to be making a slight push for damage. Oh, now he picks a backstab, though.
So the backstab can remove this Water Elemental. And I mean, next turn he's not going to be weaponing up anyways.
Right.
Or attacking, if that's the matter.
Yep. I like removing this Water Elemental. If something weird happens, like say he attacks your Earthring Farseer and then he Earthring Farseer's his own Water Elemental and you're left wondering what happened. That's another strength of a deck like this is you don't know what the range of this deck is. Like this is a new build as far as you're concerned. You have no idea what's happening, so you often are forced into playing defensively until you kind of get a better grasp of what's going on. So I think the defensive play here is 100% spot on.
Absolutely. Approach cautiously. Do not take risks. I mean, Mage is one of those decks it's why it excels in Arena, because a lot of the cards Mage can use it flexibly with a lot of the stuff they have. Reynad, by the way, has this coin to continue to draws, and he has his Conceal. And this is the turn before Flame Strike, and he picks up really important cards like Leroy, Eviscerate to deal with some of these mid-range creatures, and Reynad gets exactly what he needed this turn.
It's going to be Loatheb, though. And tread lightly. He's got a second copy of Auctioneer, so he's not really fearing the Loatheb this turn. All this is really going to do is put him in a spot where he can't cast very many spells. So, I'd be surprised if he did anything other than Dagger Up, and then whatever attacks he was going to make. But he doesn't even really want to attack the Auctioneer, because that's going to leave it vulnerable to a hero power.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think just make it kind of awkward. Yep. Take the extra damage, unfortunately.
Yep, so now it's going to fall to Frostbolt instead. A good sequence from him.
Ooh, Flame Strike. So that he does run this AoE clear, which is important.
Yeah, this is a bad spot to be in now, I think, if you're Reynad.
Yeah, it's kind of reversed.
God, the Loatheb put a big hurt in your game plan. He needs to draw something like Blood Mage here.
Well, he's got preparation.
If he picks up Blood Mage, and he picks up another preparation, I think he's in really good shape.
Okay, let's see what he's going to be able to get and chain off these draws. Second preparation is nice, so you can go for the sap and continue to work backwards from there. Second Eviscerate. Still has room if you use preparation number 2.
Yep. He's still going to be able to get off what he wants to get off here, so there's going to be preparation Eviscerate into either Blade Flurry or a second Eviscerate, but this Loatheb's got to die this turn. You cannot take 5 more damage right now. I guess another choice is whether or not he wants to preparation first or afterwards. Because, like, say he uses Eviscerate now and picks up Shiv.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah.
No, this is, yeah, it's
only be Phantom Knives if it matters.
Hey, look, there's the Shiv, though.
Yeah. No, you're right if it's Phantom Knives and he doesn't have the ability to squeeze it or something. Ah, Thalnos makes an appearance.
A little late.
A little late, but you know what? It's still timely here because he's able to kind of change it the next turn because it looks like Gaizen will die most likely by the hands of a spell of some sort. But he's already done his job.
Wow. I think you gotta kill this Auctioneer with a Frostbolt.
Mm-hmm.
But then do you play the Water Elemental or do you play the Novish Inventor? I think you play the Water Elemental. Your hand looks totally fine to me.
Yeah. I think it represents a lot. He's already used removal to try to get rid of this.
Yep.
But Reynad does have the answer pretty cleanly. Eviscerate with SI7s is enough. How does he want to pair together something else though? Because again, he has damage. He's got Leroy Double Shadow Step, Deadly Poison with Blade Flurry, and Eviscerates and SI7s with some spell power. So he's got ways to piece it all together.
Yep. The other thing too is he wants to start making a push for damage at this point, because if he finds himself in a position where he's taken a couple hero powers and suddenly he's looking at Fireball being lethal, he's going to have to do something afterwards. So I like the Blood Mage here. You just, even if it just does something like gets pinged by your opponent's hero power, you're fine with that. You're trying to gain as much HP as you possibly can at this point. You need to be very conservative, but you also need to be threatening. Both of those things coming into
Mirror Entity.
Yeah.
This is starting to
Both
get
is
really
important right
interesting
now.
with Counterspell and Mirror Entity, the way it interacts with Miracle.
I'd be
Because then
surprised if
all
he
of a
didn't play Sludge
sudden,
Belcher.
you start shortening their damage.
Yep. I'd be pretty surprised if he didn't play Sludge Belcher.
Yeah, second Eviscerate was used, so it's not going to be really clean anyways.
I think there's some arguments for Gnomish Inventor, so you can develop a secret to go along with it. But I think at this point
Okay.
you want to threaten, don't you?
But he still had a high enough health point where maybe he can drop the Sludge Belcher when it's more disruptive. He's probably
Yep.
not going to die this turn, but there is a possibility in the next 2 turns. All right, Reynad draws a couple of damage-dealing spells that cycle through. Still needs to find a way he can kind of set it up to kill without putting himself into lethal range. But he's got some time and work.
Did Forsen just leave? He just got up and walked away.
Oh, on his camera, I was like, I thought he left the game. Where did he go?
Well, he basically's left. Where on earth did he go?
Oh my god, he's refilling his beer or something. Getting as close as packet of snooze possible. Well, you know what? He's like, well, Miracle Rogue takes his time anyways. Reynad's probably going to take the full 90 seconds. I got some time.
I don't need to see what cards he played. That's so unimportant.
There's a match history bar, but sometimes you might miss the beginning of it with Miracle Rogue in play. They might play so many cards. There's more than the 7 or 8 slots that you have there in your match history. There we go.
This guy's tough.
I'm curious.
Well, you know, you didn't miss much.
It's a 3-3 out of the deal.
This guy's tough.
Now, if you're Reynad, do you trade here? Wow, straight for the dome. Flame Strike is going to be extremely important here. This is a
Well, how
play.
much damage does Reynad have? He's got 18. No, he didn't say the deadly poison though.
Yep, he doesn't have enough to lethal here for sure. And I think this is a pretty easy turn. This is a Mirror Entity Flame Strike. Because you want him to start making your own push for damage now.
All right, Forsen.
It's Counterspell, I think.
Can you? I think yeah. You calculate whether or not you can die next turn. 26. He has 7 cards, 8 with the draw. I mean, Miracle Rogue can piece together, but he already seen Eviscerates.
Yep. You've seen 2 preparations. He'd quite.
Yeah.
I think the only range of spells left that kills you is if he has double Cold Blood. Which, if he's paid a lot of attention to Reynad's list, Reynad sometimes like foregoes even playing Cold Blood to begin with. So I think that you can very safely discount 2 Cold Bloods from his range if you know that sort of thing.
Well, you know, Reynad's going to play this Lotheb, and second Mirror Entity is going to come out. Or did he? He's hesitating. He does have a way to respond to it, dropping his own Van Cleef and sapping it, and set up for lethal the following turn. But it's going to be a little bit painful, because again, this Mirror Entity doing work.
Wow.
5.
Yep.
Little roll of the eyes. Reynad's not happy
That's
to see
painful.
that.
That's very painful.
Because now when Sap comes out, then the Sludge Belcher and Lotheb the following turn. Whew.
Yeah. Well, now he's thinking about how he can die. Because, it's, again, sort of what we were talking about earlier, he's still worried about the range of spells that Forsen can have. So he's dead to Frostbolt, he's dead to Fireball. All of these things come into effect. He's thinking, do I have to sap this Lotheb right now?
Blade Flurry. He's going to just try to go for the clear now, and says if you have Fireball, I lose, but if you don't, I actually have a way to win this game.
Yep.
But Forsen also has Counterspell, so he denies one of the Shadow Steps.
Well, remember, Counterspell costs 8 right now.
So then Sludge Belcher is slightly better then, do you feel?
Oh my gosh. This looks like 23 points of damage.
Well, assuming he
Sludge-
goes straight for the face.
Well, mind you, Sludge Belcher is going to get sapped. And then
Oh,
he's
no,
got
no.
8
If
mana
if he plays Counterspell, though, he can't actually do that, though, right?
Well, if he plays Counterspell, he can't play Sludge Belcher. Because he got Lotheb.
But if he plays Counterspell, then his opponent can't use a Shadow Step, so he loses 6 damage. So it's actually the 8 mana Counterspell that's going to keep Forsen alive.
This is so pure. If he plays Counterspell, though, he needs to not play Undertaker.
That is true. No, you're actually right about that because then Sap
Yep.
draws it out first. Oh my god,
Oh
you're
my
totally right.
gosh.
This is so
This is
funny.
crazy.
Yeah, I love the conclusion and how eyes are big are getting collectively here because of just like realizing what needs to be done. Does Forsen understand that what he needs to do is counterspell ping to stay
Oh
alive?
no. Oh jeez. I think
And
he's gonna go
Forsen,
for Sludge Belcher.
he is the Miracle Rogue player too, so he knows what he needs to do or what the range is possibly. And if there is double Shadow Step, he feels like he can just die.
He's thinking about how unlikely it is that his opponent. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Oh no! He needed to
The
not play
counter spell, the Undertaker.
Wait a minute. If Reynad isn't
Yeah.
thinking clearly here,
If he gets a little
just go
antsy,
straight
but you
for it.
need to sap first. You need to sap first to see if it's Spellbender or if it's anything else, you know? Does Spellbender trigger Shadow Step? Wait.
I think it does actually.
Oh, Reynad's hovering over Farseer. Oh, he might have given it up. He needs to sap and go for it, but how can he make the read for it? You know, what is that? Is that Ice Block? Is it Ice Block and he's unable to push through, then he lets his opponent live with 5 or 6 health and he gives him a crap ton of minions.
This is another thing to consider here. He's got to think about how, if this is something like Ice Block or Ice Barrier, how he pushes through for lethal. So from Forsen's perspective, he knows, like, if he could see Reynad's hand, he would know that he's dead. And Reynad, though, it's like he has to figure out what this secret is to begin with.
He's targeting the Undertaker.
Oh my gosh. This is so unfortunate, but this is like the crazy dynamics crazy.
Is it vaporize and you're attacking Lotheb directly into it? Reynad has to choose soon. Is he going to be a victim to the rope once again? Oh, he's going to play it safe. He's going to heal up, give up the opportunity to lethal, double Shadow Steps, and go for a huge Van Cleef. The counterspell has been revealed, so Reynad has to kind of act quickly, but he will have the mana to play everything else in his hand. And now I think he's realized that he missed his opportunity to lethal, but at least he still has a pretty decent board on top of it. I don't know how big this Van Cleef is. 8-8?
Looks like a 10-10.
10-10.
Oh my gosh, 10-10 it is. I think the display was actually better when you think about that he has to go through a range of secrets of what that counterspell could have been. I think this ends up being a better play because this is effectively threatening lethal as well.
Yeah.
And at the same time also prevents you from dying to something like a top deck fireball.
I don't believe it, but Reynad's found a way to play around everything while still keeping his win condition alive, and this game is over. And Reynad breathes a sigh of relief because this mage was giving him so much grief. Game number 2 goes to the member from Temple Storm.
This is actually a really well played game, honestly.
Yeah.
You only have a limited amount of time to think through, again, what these ranges are going to be, too. So the fact that he found the line that not only played around his opponent getting lucky, but also played around pretty much every single secret that you could imagine.
Things were organized, or even Injured Blade Masters, right? He tries to go for more that minion-centric Death Lords, but maybe he has something special for this tournament as well. So he's going to go for his Warrior first.
Looks like a pretty standard Warrior build so far. And a pretty ugly opening hand, I think, if you're Reynad. Ooh, Frothing Berserker.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a card that's been seeing a little bit of play once again. Gara, for example, really likes Frothing Berserker, and just kind of picking his brain a little bit. He thinks it's really effective as a low drop because Warriors have kind of gotten a little dishonest with their early game. They try to rely on Unstable Ghoul and Acolyte to carry them through, and they don't have anything else. They just have weapons to deal with it. So Frothing Berserker gives you a legitimate threat. And if he's playing things like Frothing Berserker, I wonder if he's playing other mid-rangey creatures because I know some Warriors also experimented with Thaddeus. And then you even have BGH as your other way to activate Thaddeus as well. So there's all kinds of interesting builds. Yeah, I know. It doesn't really jump out to you on paper. But these are builds that Warrior players are thinking of, and I've seen them win games on streams and on high-level legend ladders. So it's crazy.
This is one of those spots where I feel like it's a lot. It's like painful to do this. You're like, oh, I didn't see the SI7 engine. Did he just draw that?
Yeah, he top decked it.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait a minute. This is a really weird sequence here. But it ends up being totally fine. Axe is a nice pickup.
Pretty much as good as it gets, and allows you to effectively 2-for-1 for minions that are 3 health, which very common in Miracle
Yep.
Rogue. Reynad, by the way, his hand improved a lot with his Azure Drake too. So he has ways to continue to draw as well as effectively remove. If Acolyte comes out, he can dig past things like the Unstable Ghoul in order to remove it without letting his opponent draw too many cards.
Yep. His pan out's been pretty solid so far. Second Earthring Farseer, not what he wants to see though. At this point, he's just running 3/3s out. These are effectively just 3 damage spells that are using up a charge of an X.
Yep, it's deal 3 damage, remove 1 durability.
Yeah, pretty unexciting. Now, this is one of those turns that ends up being really bad news, I think, for Reynad, because initiative is yielded purely over to Forsen. Yep.
Yikes. I mean, actually, it would have been okay too if he had his weapon up, but using that extra charge for that 1 damage early has actually costed him because of it.
Yep.
Because now he can't use backstab for 3 damage on the Azure Drake, and he's going to take a little bit extra from this Frothing Berserker.
Well, it looks to me what's going to end up happening is he's going to use Earth and Ring into Eviscerate on this. It's going to be Forsen using then Fiery War Axe and Acolyted Pain right back, and then you're going to see Azure Drake into backstab on the Acolyted Pain. That's to me, that's what this would spell out.
Yeah, I think so too. You don't want to kind of endanger your Drake unnecessarily, and you know, the Eviscerate is a clean, so a really good breakdown of that play and removal. I think that's almost exactly how it's panning out.
Yep. I mean, no reason not to play the Acolyte in this position.
All right, well, seems like you got this game handled. I'm going to take a water break, and I'll see you later. By the way, Shiv on the top, so if he pairs together things like a Gadget Stand, he's been able to chain draw and refill his hand quickly, especially with that preparation.
Yep.
So Reynad now is just playing the waiting game, while Forsen is going to play the stall game.
Ooh, Alex Strauss is picked up.
Let's see. You know, it is one of those situations where do you take the initiative and play Lotheb even though you know your opponent really doesn't have Gadget Stand and you give up your ability to disrupt? Or do you play defensive, armor up, try to remove, and just play a little slower? Because you have these bigger threats.
I think there's a really strong argument for Lotheb here, simply because you want something that's going to start like oppressing your opponent. So it's a pretty strong counter Lotheb as well. But you know, when you start adding all this together, it's just a lot of damage you're gonna take if you don't play Lotheb. Like, you're gonna take too much damage if you don't play Lotheb right now. So I think you just have to play Lotheb.
Ooh. And if Forsen can't do something like coin out his Ragnaros and make it really ideal. Death's Bite, top deck for Forsen, which if it was on the second charge would be a little bit effective. But Forsen is also kind of on low health. 16 facing 9 damage plus a weapon charge.
Yep.
Doesn't feel the most secure.
This looks like it's gonna be a trade down to me. Like, I think it's a pretty easy justification to go ahead and use Deathbite on the Azure Drake, trade your Lotheb into his Lotheb, and continue to armor up. So you're going to be falling a little bit short on life, but if you look at the amount of pressure you have in your hand, your opponent hasn't played Gadget Stand Auctioneer yet. Outside of something like Gadget Stand Auctioneer, you end up being in pretty fantastic shape between Alex Straza and then the Ragnaros, and then also 4 damage on the Deathbite. Your opponent's already used SI7 Agent, they've already used Turret and Ring Farseers, Azure Drake's gone, Lotheb's gone. You're not going to see very much board pressure coming out from your opponent. It's just all that's left is burst. So if your opponent doesn't have a very strong burst combination or something like a Gadget Stand Auctioneer, you're in fantastic shape. And even if he does have some sort of board stability, what ends up happening is you have Unstable Ghoul and Brawl to back that up. So then the last minion that lives is going to be able to get executed because the Unstable Ghoul is either going to pick it off or live itself. You kind of just, you have all the right tools to make the right things happen. It's just, it's kind of like an uneasy feel with the way it's panning out. Wow!
A press for damage.
I'm very surprised by that. This is a super risky play.
Wait.
Is that just game?
Hold on. He's
5,
got
9,
12 from the Eviscerate plus the Deadly Poison. If Shiv draws like a Sap or an SI7 agent, I want to say.
Yeah, if you shift face here, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, this is really bad news for Forsen.
Oh, Gadget Stand.
Oh my gosh.
How do you do this? You can put your opponent at 9 health right now.
Remind
or
you,
you can continue the chain draw.
If you put him too low, and he has a reasonable amount of answers, plus Alex Straza, that could be really bad news.
Yeah, that's also a good point.
Yeah.
And if he's paying close attention, Forsen has the coin and he hasn't used it.
Yep.
Okay. So
Oh
let's
my
see what
gosh.
Reynad has. He has preparations and draws. He gets second deadly poison.
Oh, this is
Imagine
gonna be a clear.
if he gets a blade flurry.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, you're right. He is gonna go for the clear. Forgot that the 1 damage from the undead ghoul acts the whirlwind.
Oh my gosh.
And he gets sap.
This is a snowball effect from relying on the unstable goal to be a defensive tool.
And it has not paid off for Forsen. He's down to 6 health.
Okay.
And even if he Alex Straws, he's still in tough position.
He still has some reasonable options here, though. If he goes down, I think at the end of the day, you just have to go down to 2 here from the attack. And then you shield block afterwards.
Execute.
You can brawl execute as well.
And shield block after.
That's possible also. Gosh, this is tough. If you go down to 2 and you save the brawl afterwards, that brawl's not very. I guess. 5-minute deadly shot feels so awful. I think you're right though. I think this is a brawl execute coin shield block turn.
Well, shield block first and see what you get.
Oh my gosh!
Or is he gonna go for this instead?
I still personally like attacking. I think it feels really awful, but I think this is the right play. Still gonna be at 9 life, decent health total. Ooh, picks up Grommish too.
With no way to activate it, unfortunately, but at least
a big part of this play I want to talk about is the swing that Alexstrasza provides you next turn. So if you live through this turn, you get a much bigger swing out of the Alexstrasza than if it goes the other way around, but another Auctioneer gets picked up.
Wow, that is a top deck. But you know what? He only can get 1 draw, at least based off what we see here. And even preparation doesn't give him anything.
Well, mind you, the issue is, oh my gosh, and Leroy Jenkins comes into the hand. He doesn't deal any damage, though.
Right. But, Alexstrasza, as much as it gives him 13 health, Gadget's Hand's still alive.
Yep.
He has to kind of use something like Grommash to stabilize, to not take the damage and get the draws.
That's still not going to do it. That's actually game now because Reynad's got, unless I'm counting myself totally wrong, he's got 11 points of damage. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Does he have the mana to do it as well?
Yep, because he's got 4.
So you're right. Yep. So Reynad's going to be able to squeeze it out.
Wow, with exactly.
And he's got Shadow Step for the insurance. Reynad has taken the series lead. Forsen is devastated. He was really hoping his opponent was not able to draw it, as Forsen almost ripped his headset out of his computer tower there. That is a absolutely crushing loss.
You know what? This is a really strong play from Reynad's side too. Not only to have won this game in the fashion that he did, but to play the Shadow Step from the right side of your hand. If you know
specific cards that can address, and knowing what kind of cards are in your opponent's deck will matter for future rounds. So if Reynad wins here, it's an important one because he's concealed his warrior tech, so that way players don't know how to approach it if he's saving. We've seen Reynad play things like Deathwing in the past, right? So we're not sure if he has that, or maybe he's just playing other conventional warrior decks. It's kind of unknown.
Yeah, there's something to think about. It's like Priest is sort of like, it feels to me like it's a big information battle. This is pretty ugly. Forsen mulligan here, if I'm not incorrect. It's a pretty ugly
heavy hand.
Yeah.
But he's got Shade of Naxxramas and Dark Cultist, which is, in my opinion, one of the best starts you can ask for next to Zombie Chow with that. And it gives you the ability to combo everything while having a pretty safe board, unless your opponent has ridiculous AoE in the beginning, like Auchenai, Soul Priest, and the Mirror. So I think this is a good start.
Something that I've seen is actually a lot of people not playing with Zombie Chow, and I'm curious exactly why. I think to me it feels like it's just strictly better than Holy Smite.
Yeah, I think Zombie Chow is fantastic. I've lost too many games to Zombie Chow to doubt it anymore. I'm now a full believer. I have been converted by the Dark Cultist.
I've been chowed down on too many times.
Once is enough for me. My policy in life. Reynad picks up a lot of removal options.
It sucks to kill this Dark Cultist really bad right now.
Because then that becomes an injured Blade Master, a 4/7 next turn.
Yeah, and it's going to keep getting bigger.
And I guess until you have something like Sap, you're just kind of at the mercy of the stealth. He can put out his own Van Cleef, though. Kind of address how he wants to do this. And, you know, put out 6/6. Pretty reasonable. It's able to match up really well.
It sucks having to risk the Shadow Word Death, but I think with this game
Yes.
composition, he doesn't really have an option.
I think so. And you're also able to press a little bit for damage. So even Eviscerate can finish him off next turn.
Yep.
If he's able to if he trades into the Farseer, for example. He still can go for a Shadow Word Death off the Shadow Word, off the Power Word Shield, excuse me, but he chooses to play the Yeti, which is the safer play, develops the board, makes total sense.
Yep. Reynad now has got an opportunity to push for a lot of damage, and he picks up Sap. Wow, is he really going to attack the Yeti here? Oh my gosh, I don't know if I...
Heal up. And
oh, he's going to heal his own... Okay,
that
makes a lot of sense. I was like, wait a minute, why would he do that? And then I see the heal going under the Van Cleef. That makes perfect sense.
And he's getting traction out of his Van Cleef, too, because you don't want... Even if he top decks into Shadow Word Death, at least he's got some mileage off of it.
Yep. He doesn't have an option other than play Lothab here, too. So Reynad's stuck just attacking for a turn, but you're not really disappointed with that when it's 9 points of damage. Oh, yeah, he picks up Auctioneer.
Yeah, so he's got a good response next turn. Gadgetzan, this, if he plops down here, makes it vulnerable to Holy Fire, so... you know, Reynad's going to keep that in his back pocket, force Lothab into an awkward trade, and put Forsen already down to 18 health by turn 6. Forsen's in a tough situation.
Spot where may be able to start climbing out of it, though.
He can see what he can go for a kill on the Van Cleef and keep his Lothab alive. And then go from there based on what he draws. Maybe a way to even Pyromancer and clear if he has Pyromancer in his deck. We're not sure. Forsen, again, builds his priest pretty uniquely.
Yep. I'm curious how important it is to actually keep your Lothab alive here. Like how much weight is it pulling if you do that?
It's or how much you value an extra card.
It's probably how you end up... Yeah, that also, because the mana is pretty important here, too. I think it's probably better to keep it alive simply because you just need some sort of development on the board. So all of your other plays are just about redeveloping. And so it's probably just better to go ahead and get the value from using hero powers or other cards, for example. But this might be a spot where he anticipates using Thoughtsteal. So it's like totally fine to Thoughtsteal first. Oh my gosh, he's got to do something quick.
Yeah, but if you get Thoughtsteal and you get Deadly Poison, I mean, that is basically game from that point on. He's opting to play to Sylvanas and try to make it really difficult, but now he's opened up to Sap. And this allows Reynad to develop the board while drawing cards.
Auctioneer's freaking huge here.
Backstab allows him to also get two more draws.
You should backstab first, I think, just to get the card draw.
Ooh. Oh my god. Now all of a sudden it's not as clear.
Wow.
Are you afraid of a Shadow Word Death?
That's a good question. No, he's clearly not. I like it.
Ballsy play from Reynad, but Forsen, I mean, he's not afraid of Shadow Word Death or even a Holy Fire on itself. Oh my god, this is so weird because he can't kill it with Holy Smite, and the only way to draw cards is to do something with Thoughtsteal, but it's very difficult. He has to kind of pull like an Eviscerate on his own Sylvanas, right? Or can you even Eviscerate your own Sylvanas? That's a weird situation. I've never even done that. Oh, SI7 agent allows him to steal it.
Oh my gosh.
What if he takes the Gadgetzan?
He needs to take this Gadgetzan Auctioneer right here. This is a 50-50 chance. Oh my gosh.
Hey, lights out.
He's got got two cards that he needed. I don't know what he's going to take. Gadgetzan's going to be so big because look at his hand. It's all spells. Oh, I didn't take the Auctioneer.
Oh my gosh.
Reynad can't draw anymore other than his No Mission Venture. Hold that thought, though. If he picked up, like...
Remain stealth? Are you kidding?
Holy smoke, you're right.
Because the conceal says until the start of your next turn.
Yeah, that's so funny. It stays stealth, so he can't do it. So now the 5-man is... Miracle Priest is alive.
I cannot believe it. This has to be one of the biggest turnarounds in a game I've seen in a long time. He's
Okay,
about to
well,
take control.
This guy's toast.
hold on. He's not out of the woods just yet. I'm trying to think of he can go for a board clear, but still he's at 10 health. And you know, Leroy plus a Shadow Step or something, because he knows Shadow Step's still in the deck. He hasn't drawn it yet, but if he has a second Shadow Step, he still might die. So Forsen has to be still careful. Shadow or Death comes really too late. But he's drawing more spells. Oh my god.
Don't you definitely want a Holy Nova afterwards?
Yeah, I think, you know, you have to be really cautious. You know, Forsen, look at him. He's just trying to think critically, like, what can I do? I need to survive. I need to kill off everything. Go for a board clear. Holy Smite.
This is unreal. I cannot believe what we're watching right now. Miracle Priest is happening. This is insane.
Yeah, we only need the sax guy music to accompany what we just watched, and then we had a complete YouTube highlight reel right there. All right, Thanos and the sap does come out, so Forsen will have to play a little bit more honestly next turn, but Reynad kind of whiffs. There is still a little bit of window opportunity because he can draw cards, but if Forsen top deck something like Cabal Shadow Priest and heal up, it reduces the ability for opponent to draw into lethal. Still, it's going to be tricky. He's at very low HP.
Something Holy Fire. Oh, Sludge Belcher.
Sludge Belcher off the top is a huge draw,
Oh
but
my gosh.
oh my god, the sap. Hold on, is there a way he can kind of climb out of this right now? It's still tricky.
Yeah.
I must consider.
So Sludge Belcher and heal makes the most sense.
You need to be healing every single turn. It's probably Northshire Cleric. And... oh, wow. That's really interesting.
Take no prisoners, I like it. But you give Reynad the ability to draw right here. SI7 agent, is it Leroy to end the game?
Not quite. He's getting really close, though. The problem is if he slaps his Sludge Belcher now, the Sludge Belcher is just going to come right back down.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like he's really got to weigh how this damage ends up panning out. And this might be the turn. This might be the one turn that Forsen needed.
If Forsen top deck something like Holy Fire, this game gets put way out of reach unless Reynad's able to draw, give him the time to draw into everything. But this is where Priest can continue to turn the tides. This is coming down to the wire.
Even something like a second Sludge Belcher.
Does Reynad have direct damage to potentially end the game too? Say if he goes for something like Deadly Poison Attack, an SI7 agent, and say he like Leroy's into the Sludge Belcher next turn, like he top decks it, and he pushes for the extra 3 damage with Deadly Poison. Do you think that's a way for him to sneak it in?
You're risking a lot by doing that.
Mm-hmm. Well, you just want to consider all your outcomes. He's going to be out of time anyways, but I think this is the cleanest play. See what Forsen can do. Can he pull out some magic?
It's going to be probably a Holy Nova turn.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, I may have spoken way too soon.
Thought Steal. Oh my
I just want
goodness.
to start healing up. Oh
So
gosh,
a few
this
mana
is
to the
tough.
heal.
Whoa! That's a really weird play.
Yeah, no Holy Nova, so that way he can't draw. Cabal Shadow Priest comes in, way too expensive. Sludge Belcher as well.
This is a really big risk he's taken, I think, by getting himself into this kind of spot now. You know, if he recovers from this turn, though, he's going to be in really great shape.
Yeah, Leroy still ends the game.
6.
He needs 4 damage. Eviscerate also ends the game. Any kind of 4 damage thing will end the game. Reynad gets Fan of Knives. It's still alive, I think. He still can draw Leroy and play everything.
Blade Flurry? Does that do it?
Oh, preparation.
Wow. That's a really poor draw. That's got to be the worst draw of the deck at the moment.
And this goes back once again to the fact that Reynad lost his Auctioneer, so he couldn't draw it.
Oh my gosh, that 150-50 really turned this game around. And I think at this point this game has almost slipped completely out of control. I don't know if he has any way to actually pick this up.
He has to kind of save sap. Because there is a Sludge Belcher, but you know, pressing for damage here doesn't feel that good, considering that you will be taking damage back from this Gadget's end. You will be drawing cards.
Right.
Oh, man. Reynad's going to go for it, looks like. Pointing it straight to Anduin, but we know that this potentially is a death sentence, depending on how the draw is panned out. At the same time, saving these charges like we've been talking about, as much as it might be good, it also kind of gets to the point where you're limiting your own damage. So he kind of it feels like he has to do something here. This is tough. God, it's just eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Oh gosh, it's painful.
Catch a gadget Sam by the toe. And if he draws 15,000 cards, let me know.
It's a lot of fatigue.
Well, okay, so Forsen. Wait, I think Forsen might suspect that he doesn't have Leroy. What if he thought steals into
Really?
Leroy?
You really
Oh
think
my
he suspects
God.
that his opponent doesn't have Leroy right now?
Well, I mean,
Huh.
so if he thought stole Leroy, that'd be the most epic way to win the game. Just kind of thinking creatively. Oh
Wow.
man.
Well, look at that. That's no longer a possibility. Maybe he's got
Well,
mind
hold on. He still can survive one turn, but he can't win.
Yep.
Reynad gives up. The Leroy was sequenced just one card off from being. I'm not even sure what Reynad maybe has shown in the past where he pulls out Aggro Warrior, right? That's what he did in Deck Wars against the Moss, so he's capable of playing anything. It looks like it is a Control Warrior, and he's playing cards like Ysera, which has seen a lot more play lately with how the game slowed down a lot.
Yeah. One of the differences I wanted to note, by the way, is how it's slowed down and how that's influenced a lot of Warrior builds. Something I see a lot of now is Ysera being in these Warriors. Sludge Belcher being there also puts a little bit of a dent in Priest's ability to really make a push for the late game. But Deathspite is something that I think is doing a lot more work than some people are giving it credit for. The extra Whirlwind effect is often something you need, not only to draw cards off of something like Acolyte of Pain, but also to activate cards like Execute, because you just find yourself having to very inefficiently use Whirlwind in this matchup, because it doesn't really do anything other than start enabling Executes or drawing cards off of your own Acolytes of Pain. So you're getting that one extra effect, and additionally, you're also getting 8 more damage of attack out of your weapon. And all of that stuff really starts to add up at the end of it. And at one point, I think that Priest did have a pretty significant advantage in this matchup, but I don't think it's the case anymore.
Okay. By the way, Northshire Cleric off the top. Interesting choice. There are players who just feel sometimes it's not a good idea to play straight into Fiery War Axe, but Forsen shows no fear. Just goes for it.
Yeah,
Thought Steal, really powerful in this matchup. He gets an Alex Straza. Not bad.
Wow, shield block too.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he can Thought Steal a shield slam. It's a lot of cards being picked up. Oh wow, Cairn is a really important one too.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, look at Reynad's hand.
Holy smokes! What if he's like Thought Steals a weapon and he Harrison Jones it too? There's just some next level meta here being panned out with Alex Straza and Thought Steals. Or sorry, Priest and Thought Steals.
Honestly, looking at these hands, I don't know if Forsen has any way to actually win this game. This is brutally swinging out of control.
Yeah, I mean, you get 3 draws most likely off of your Acolyte, and you have board control. Get out of here. Control Warrior is in such a good position with how slow it's going.
I'm pretty sure
this is...
he can play Fiery War Axe and start swinging here. That's honestly, like, I think that's a totally reasonable play. He should at least develop it. Like, there's no reason to not be developing this Fiery War Axe, I don't think. It's so strange.
Harrison Jones has been putting a lot of Priest, though, for them to answer, like, Hunters and Miracle Rogues, etc.
It's like, are you that worried about it, though? I don't know. It feels like it's not that big of a deal to me.
I don't fear a lot of things in life, but Harrison is definitely one of them.
I've been Harrison from my Doomhammer. I still don't fear it.
I've been known not to trust men in whips, let me tell you that.
Whoa. Shaded X Ramus comes into Forsen's hand. Sludge Belcher feels like it's pretty awful here. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think whenever there's a 5 attack minion that can survive the 2 black, like basically Sludge Belcher doesn't ever want to go 1 for 1. You want to kind of make it attack a lot more than it's worth. So the Harrison plus an easy pick off of the Fiery War Axe would make it feel pretty awful. But at the same time, a death on a Harrison doesn't feel the greatest either. You know how many threats are in a warrior deck, and just using a death here just feels a little wasteful. But you got to do what you got to do.
Here's sort of the point I wanted to make too. He's got to be running Deathbite, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're eventually just going to draw too many weapons. You're not going to be able to swing with all of them.
That is true. That's a very relevant point.
Just start swinging.
In fact, that's actually one of the strategies that some warriors implement against Hunter nowadays, where you have a lot of weapons. You have 4 of them, maybe even 5 if you're playing Gorehouse. So why not just use the Fiery War Axe as a 6 damage burn?
Yeah, you just start beating them up.
Yep.
It's hard to beat people who can punch harder than you're punching them.
God, this is nasty. 2 Cairns at full health.
2 Cairns is easy to deal with if you're a priest. Are you kidding me? 2 recurring 4 power minions with a lot of health.
Just Steel Brawl. Why not?
Yeah, easy game.
Well, we can deal with one of them, but it's still not pretty. He's instead going to try to answer with minions.
He doesn't have an option other than answer with minions, honestly. I think this is just a Lotheb turn.
Shade Axe Rammus also is a card with a lot of potential in this matchup too, because of how it can stack with the legendary. You want to kind of like in these control matchups, you definitely want to be keeping inventory and head count of your opponent's legendaries. And if you're able to use these cards really inefficient or really low cost, like Frothing Berserker / Shade of Next Rammus, and have them trade for premium removal or legendaries, you get ahead in the count. So the longer this goes unchecked, the higher chance Forsen can get really good value off of it.
Yep. Gosh, tough is about to be in. It's like a lot of not good plays.
Yeah, it's which turn sucks less? And Forsen opts for the Sludge Belcher.
That's exactly what it is.
Yep. All right, Reynad has a myriad of options, but it seems like he's missing a couple things, like his shield slams, to really make this nice. And like almost all the legendaries are still kind of out of the question. You're not dropping it yet. First World Warrior problems. Gosh.
I have too many weapons and legendaries in my hand. I have
all
too
this
much
dust.
life.
I can't hold all this dust in my arms.
I have too much life. I don't need any more armor.
Also, this is a non-golden deck, and I know Reynad's really religious about having golden decks. So it must have been him that didn't have the count correct.
I was just about to say, I bet they're playing on EU as a result.
We found the culprit, ladies and gentlemen. Mystery solved. Produced by Vince Gilligan. We'll see you guys next week.
It's like an episode of Forensic Files.
Yeah, really.
Reynad didn't have his Golden Warrior prepared because they were supposed to be playing on the EU accounts.
Wait, is that coin golden? Zoom and enhance.
And they have like the expert analysis.
Yeah. God.
When we discovered
who's wearing the sunglasses? Definitely you, Admirable. You're wearing the sunglasses as we sign off into the sunset.
Wow.
So Forsen picks up Holy Nova, which allows him again to deal a little bit, but the overall bigger picture, there's just a lot of 4-attack minions going to be on the board no matter what he does.
Holy Nova's not really doing anything here.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's like healing his opponent's guys almost.
Yeah, when you put it like that, Holy Nova for your enemy.
This is the right way to do it, though. You want to attack with the use first.
You know what? Shade Axe Rammus still biding his time.
I mean, Forsen is at 30 though, so he's not. He's got to start dealing with stuff, but he's not in a hurry to deal with it.
Yes. Also true.
There's Deathbite.
Are you afraid of mind control, by the way? Because Priests has been coming out. Like, it feels like eventually you're going to drop these big legendaries, but, your timing of them are so important. Are you afraid of mind control?
you're afraid of it, but not. I think you're afraid of it more if neither player's taking initiative. When the board's kind of empty and nothing's happening, it's a big difference. But in this spot, oh my gosh,
God, this is big damage. Holy smokes!
Holy smokes, indeed.
23 in one turn. You know what? The Shade Next Rammus has been doing his best Goku impression, but I think it's time for him to start acting.
I still don't think. I actually don't think it is. I think this is going to be a Holy Fire attack with. Whoa! Wait! Whoa! Is this going to be a Lothar turn? Wait, aren't you?
They've Shadow Word Death.
Wait a minute. Reynad's already used both Cruel Taskmasters, hasn't he?
I saw him use one on the Acolyte. Oh yeah, you're right. He used the second one.
Yeah, so he's not worried about Grommash and Cruel Taskmaster. He has to fade a Whirlwind.
You're right. He needs.
Here's the thing: Whirlwind on this board position is effectively going to kill him anyway, and he realizes that.
No, whoa! But the Grommash plus Fiery War Axe.
Oh my gosh! He didn't think about that though.
No. He's forgotten about that possibility because he just saw Fiery War Axe, and that's not a spell. That's a weapon. Reynad has won this series 3-2. A little premature because we thought this was going to go all the way. Priest versus Warrior ends up going to 50. Oh no, Forsen is devastated, almost face desking at this point, and Reynad will move on to winner's bracket round number 2.